Hello, John, a happy place. Another project for you, and this time we have fully recycling of the project, and we need to do something with those toilet rolls inserts, which I believe became kind of a pandemic symbol, but I'm not going there. Very simple project, probably done by your kids at some stage at school, but this time we're gonna put the painterly and arty twist on it. So we're looking at creating some holders for anything. It doesn't have to be for the pencils, it could be for your makeup stuff, something that you have on a desk and want to put there, you name it, brushes. So this is my personal one, quite big one. The one I filmed for you because I have time limits, it's a smaller one. So you can see it is very painterly. It's got lots of splashes as well, so it's not about precise covering it, it's about splashing paint, so make sure you cover your area when you do that. And I'm looking forward to what you create, because it's always interesting for me to see what you're coming up with. Involve your kids or other members of the family into the project, because it is quite addictive. Take care. Bye bye. Here is an example of the finished project. Again, your may be completely different. You may decide to use this project not as a pencil holder. It could be serving as your makeup brushes holder or pencil holder for the kitchen. It's really up to you. The point here is I'm not using any particular patterns to paint it. It is very splashy and very expressive. So let me just give you some close-ups. So here I've got different colors, I've got some splashes, I've got paint leaking to the base color is changing, and you have variety of containers. The containers, again, use what you have. So let me just show you some examples that can be used. Of course, the famous toilet roll inserts, and you can cut them to the desired size. Here you can have something taller and something shorter, or you can cut them angled so they're kind of sticking out a bit. You can also use some plastic containers after yogurts or other food, whatever you can find. And for the base, like this base here, I used, and I'm using the back of, that's a packaging, that's just a cardboard that came with something, and then when I glue it, glue my composition or my design to it, I will be cutting out to the desired shape. So the first stage is basically deciding what do you want, what kind of holders. Do you want them tall? Do you want them not so tall? How many? And how do you want to allocate them? That's your first stage. And what you're doing, you're just gluing them with PVA glue, or if you happen to have a heat gun, that's very good as well. You glue them to the base. Now, base I will be cutting out later according to you, depending on that shape of my containers. I'll be cutting out the base. You may want to decide to leave base bigger, so you have a little bit more space here. It's really up to you. But just bear in mind that will be cut out to the different shape later. So let me just think what I'm doing here. Just gonna have one more. So for the purpose of this filming, I'm just gonna make very small with 3 different, maybe 4. Shall I do 4? I'll do 3 different rolls, and they all from toilet rolls inserts. But remember, like this one, you can combine different sizes. This one, for example, comes from a tape. If you have any sellotape, big sellotape or packaging tape, you get that inside. So just glue them to your base, leaving some space the base if you want to have that space around. You may want to help it to glue by adding glue once it's touching the base. Plenty of glue, don't worry, it will all disappear. Okay, so you need to let that dry fully. It may take a day. You may want to speed up the process with a hair dryer, but normally the best way is just to leave it overnight. And your next stage, when this is dry, is to find paint of any color, but preferably, I think lighter is easier, but it doesn't have to be light. You can use, I have leftover of my household paint, that works, but you can use acrylic paint, any ceiling or wall paint from your house will do, and just cover your rolls and the base around where the part you want to keep in that one unified color, and then we can play with that. So I'm gonna come back with that when it's dry, and when I covered that with one layer or maybe two, depends how it looks, of household paint. I'm back with my project. So I used just the household paint, and it happened to be a bit old, so that created those it looks like kind of like a sandpaper or like something in paint, which is not a problem. So use what you've got. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just to cover it. Okay, and I quite like the texture it's gonna give me. Now, in terms of paints, use what you've got. I have some examples of not very expensive paint. This is Wilkinson £1 paint for children, very good, the yellow one. And you probably noticed when I paint it is very fluid kind of paint, so you can splash with that. Lidl is doing good paints as well, acrylic paints. You can get or sometimes paints for £1 like craft paints, or household paint. Any household paint that is not oil based, so just the wall and ceiling paints, will react exactly in the same way like acrylics. And so you have a small pot. Sometimes people buy them for samples or just leftover in a big tin. That can be used not just for the base cover layer, but for the final painting as well. All my pieces are glued, and I left this one because I'll be cutting this out later to desired shape. But now I just want to paint everything as one piece, not to worry about the edges, not to worry about going over the lines. I'm just gonna paint it as it is, and then I cut out the base later. Okay, in terms of colors, I would say go for 2 or 3 colors you know they're gonna work together. So I know the dark blue with yellow and green work together, and then I'm having my red for a bit of contrast, so I'm probably gonna use this one less. If you have different sizes of brushes, use them as well. So I'm just gonna go with my brush that still got that pink on it, and when I damp that in dark blue, gives me really nice light blue. So I need to move the paints so you can see what I'm doing. Now paint in different directions, and to get this the look I showed you before, the secret is to go with that paint over different areas. So okay, I'm going over the base part of the tube, but not fully. Then I'm overlapping it with another tube, and I'm just moving to another area now. And I'm quite quick. I don't really mess about with it. I just want that paint down. So now this is quite tricky to see because I have to move it when I paint, and that's not easy for me, but I hope you get the idea what I'm doing by just observing my brush strokes. And now I'm gonna switch my brush to something smaller and go with green. And I can go into that navy color, even if it picks up some of it, that's fine. So I'm working wet into wet in terms of the paint. I don't wait for them to dry at all. Oh, I grabbed some white by accident. It's quite nice, I like that. And look what's happening here, I'm just overlapping. Back to green, and now let me just repeat the mistake, which was a happy mistake. I grabbed some white because I was looking at the camera, I wasn't looking where I was reaching the paint, and adding that white created a bit of teal. And I'm just gonna carry on like that, adding different colors. Sometimes I'm just adding yellow now, cleaning the brush, sometimes not, allowing the colors to blend on the brush and on the actual tubes. Sometimes I paint a bit inside if I want to. So this is what you do, and then when you have it all painted, the last part is to give it those splashes of color. So how you do that, you need to mix your paint with water if it's not fluid enough. So this yellow, for example, it almost is in the right form. Yeah, it is. So I'm just gonna grab it, and again, you don't have to wait for the paints to dry, you can do it wet on wet. What you do, you're just gonna splash it where you want it, and create different brushes will give you different splashes, splatters. Also they give you smaller and bigger ones, so you need to experiment with that. Right, so happy painting, happy creating. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to finish that painting and cut somewhere here around like more kind of organic shape base and show you what it looks like. So here's my little project ready after the painting, and I just wanted to show you some close-ups so you can have better view, because I'm quite aware when I was doing it, it's difficult to get the right angle of the camera. So look at all those splatters and splashes and paint, you know, going everywhere. It's a very painterly look, I love it. And then you just cut out the base to the desired shape, and here we go. So now just time to put some bits in it. There we go. I'm looking forward to see what you create. Have fun.